This is Arizona, the land of the storytellers. I wanted to start this speech tonight with two words: Holocaust deniers. That's the latest we've been called, to try to stop our movement. I'd like to address some of this, not only to those that accuse us of that, but to Mr. George W. Bush, and of course the local TNA paper that accused us of that. We are certainly not Holocaust deniers. We don't deny the non-Holocaust of George Bush's war. We don't deny the Holocaust that is still happening in New York City from the Hiroshima that happened on September 11th. We don't deny the Holocaust that our government supports in Palestine, Lebanon, and of course Darfur, which is ignored, nor the Holocaust that we have created in Afghanistan and Iraq. We don't deny the silent Holocaust called global warming. This is just the latest effort to stop the people's movement to find out who was responsible for the stand down of our entire defense system on September the 11th. Now, let's talk about the Holocaust of 60 years ago, because I'm going to tell you who the Holocaust deniers were. Mr. George Bush, let's take a look at your grandfather, Preston Bush and Alfred Harrison. Two men who denied the Holocaust in pursuit of the almighty dollar, which isn't so almighty anymore, supporting Hitler and being tried and found guilty of trading with the enemy. Let's look at other Holocaust deniers like IBM, Bayer, Wall Street, the bankers in New York, and all the other American corporations that supported Hitler and turned a blind eye while he was destroying all of Germany. After all, Hitler did learn about mass executions from Henry Ford. What about the Vatican denying the Holocaust with their rat lines? How about our leaders that I have investigated after reading 1,500 books the past 7 years, who turned around a shipload of Jewish women and children because they said it wasn't Christian to break up families? According to the latest polls, 80% of Americans deny the Holocaust, because 80% of Americans refuse to even address global warming. Let's talk about a Holocaust that can wipe us all out. I thought America was the land of freedom. Freedom of speech, thought, and opinion. It's easier to deify one Holocaust over the other. Yesterday I recorded a show with Howard Zinn, and he's got a great essay on the Holocaust. And I said to Howard, what about the silent Holocaust? And he liked that. 12 million children a year, twice the amount of Jews that were killed during the Holocaust every year, die of starvation and disease. What about the Holocaust of U.S. covert ops, killing 10 million people during peacetime? What about the Holocaust, as one man presented at the press conference today, of the 12 million Native Americans that were slaughtered at the beginning of this country? There was also another Holocaust that happened in Arizona, Texas, and California. It was called the Mexican War. We know Holocaust, Mr. Bush, and unlike your grandfather, we don't deny them. I've been in Arizona since 1991. I've watched the Holocaust happen on the desert, 1 acre an hour, every day, for the past 20 years. I see what passes as news, newspapers, and TV here, and coming from New York, I thought I stepped into either Pleasantville or Bizarro Land. Accusing anybody of denying the Holocaust is just another distraction and a waste of time. That's as much time as I spend. I understand that some people also don't want to talk about another taboo section called civil disobedience. Well, Harold Zinn, who happens to be a Jew, who happens to also be from Brooklyn, said sometimes civil disobedience is called for, and these times call for it. And he should know he got arrested just a few months ago in D.C. for protesting again. A grandmother who had protested, I understand, got a sentence to sweep the streets of D.C. as her punishment for protesting against the war. And I say, what will the punishment be for those who are hiding behind the golden gates of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? What streets are they going to clean, or will we sweep the streets with them? Now, for those of you who want to blame 9/11 on Israel or any other one country, I interviewed Sibel Edmonds, an FBI translator and whistleblower, and on my show, Sibel said at least 14 countries were involved in September 11th. Why did they hate us, I say, but I'll get into that, so don't worry. I want to ask everybody in this audience if you have a stomach. Now, if you have a stomach, can you raise your hand? Okay. Your stomach is also called your gut. Sometimes when you listen or you read or you watch a movie, it's only your stomach or your gut that's going to tell you if what you're hearing is true. Trust your stomach and your gut. Whether it's here, whether it's out in the street, or whether it's watching the regular media, which I call asses for the masses. What I'm going to be telling you here tonight is my truth. My truth after reading over 1,500 books in 7 years, interviewing the best people on the planet in every field there is. If you're not familiar with my show, go to Meria.net, M-E-R-I-A. They're all there, they're all downloadable, they're all in MP3 format. Spread them around. My mother used to say, talk is cheap. She was right. We have to judge people by their actions, not their words. Because if we judge people by their words, then George Bush would have actually won an election. How many of you are here in Arizona for the first time? Okay. I'd like to tell you to go, if you have time, to go look at Arizona, because there's a lot of beauty in Arizona. And then there's John McCain. So I want to educate you a little bit about Arizona, because I'm considered a native. Anybody that's lived here more than 3 years is. 1,000 years ago, the Holocaust Indians and the Pima, which supposedly migrated from Mexico, lived here in Arizona. Arizona was indeed Mexico before the Mexican War, of which Lincoln disapproved. Now Arizona doesn't want Mexicans here. And Bush talks about the invisible wall that he will never build between the United States and Mexico. Because while he talks the talk, the unvoted on, undebated North American Union is being formed, which will be Canada, the United States, and Mexico as one country. How many of you know that story? Okay? You must be listening to the show. Thanks to the excellent work of Robert Galen Ross, who broke the story of the American Union at least 5 years ago on my show, people are starting to get aware of it. Still, a lot of people have no clue that that's going on. Tonight's and this weekend is all about 9/11 and accountability. And I've got quite a few suggestions for accountability, so stay with me. But I'm going to go there in steps tonight. Before I get started, I do want to introduce somebody that's very special to me. He's here, he's speaking tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, don't miss him. He's the host of his own radio show, Deadline Live, the only other guy I'll recommend, Jack Blood. Jack, where are you? He's hiding. For those of you that don't know, 10 years ago, I did radio in Phoenix, and Jack was my producer. And he fought tooth and nail for me at all times. And Jack and I have kind of grown up into all of this ugly news together. So I'm really happy that he's here tonight.